I'd just like to know, would it make more sense for, say, one document or one piece of rules and regulations to govern all schools over Bangalore or as such the country? Because each school functions in a different way. They have their own way of functioning, their own procedure and the values which they believe in, right? So the situation from school to school could be different, and it would make maybe more sense to have each school have their own, say, a framework of policies and action what they would take in case of such cases. More than having someone from outside formulating it for you. There can be maybe a framework or a guidance that you have to cover this and this points, but it should not necessarily enforce specific details because that varies from school to school according to my opinion.
Installing CCTV everywhere, having a floor vigilance officer. I mean, they can't be. They should be. The schools should be made responsible, and they should be made aware that these things have to be taken care. But a single set of rules guiding all schools, that this should be the way. This is how you have to happen. I'm sure all schools have received at least 16 calls from CCTV companies. Do you want to install? Do you want to install? We have this. We give you 3-year warranty. We give you 4-year warranty. We should go and represent that. We should talk to the government not to enforce such things. And they should be held responsible. I agree with the responsibility, but they should not be binded by a set of rules that they have to adhere to this. And I think these rules are only for private unaided schools. Why are government schools not bound by this?
The government school teachers, staff, they throw the ball back to the government, telling them to install. So we are the ones for the receiving end.
I think norms are important. I think the way we adhere to norms at each school, we need to adhere to norms in a slightly different way because each school's situation and context may be different. But I think the trouble in our schools, in our country, in our state, is that we hate to have norms and we hate to adhere to any kind of norms. I think that's the problem. I think norms must be there because they're like broad guidelines, a framework based on which each school can formulate their own set of steps and processes and policies and so on.
I like to be responsible by myself and I like people to give a room to be responsible. But I also like to know how I'm going to be held responsible.
I just have one question. All these guidelines seem to be focusing on the physical safety. What about the emotional safety? How are these guidelines going to help me feel more safe? That I don't think I'll be comfortable having 10 different cameras on me like 24/7. Frankly, I do not like the concept. Secondly, I think these guidelines, fine, to some extent we have to accept it. Instead, why can't we have, see, like in restaurants you have officers coming and seeing your hygiene, like you have regular checkups. So why not have regular checkups at school where officials come and they grade your school. So see, if you are not adhering to this norm, you fail in that way. So then, at the end, you're given a month's notice, you have to implement it and overcome that. After that, I wanted to say, in schools where, in Indian schools, there are teachers who are really strict, some teachers are really nice, I think in every school. So sometimes students don't feel that we can go and approach the teachers. So why not have a proper student council where the seniors, instead of throwing attitude to their juniors, become more approachable, and the seniors themselves say, okay, if you're having a problem, if you don't want to tell your teacher, you can come and talk to me.
I do think that these guidelines are quite major, but I agree that we need to have guidelines, right? I think school communities, like any other professional communities, need to have guidelines, and possibly one thing that the school community can do is get together with students and come up with ways that they feel each school can handle it and present that to the government. If you're saying the goal is to keep children safe, this is how we propose to do it, and this is what we are going to stay responsible for and be accountable for. I think that might be a really useful, proactive way of doing it, rather than fighting against the government. I'm a counseling psychologist and I am currently researching child sexual abuse. So this is a perspective from which I am coming from, which is that we seem to have shame, we seem to have a culture of shame and closeness towards difficult or icky topics. The number of times that I have been asked to come to a school to do sex education without mentioning the word sex Because God forbid, if you say sex to a teenager, they might run out and do it. Right? So I'm saying there is a way that we are afraid to talk about difficult things. And for me, I think openness and the ability to talk openly about what can happen, what may happen, what are normal feelings and what are not, and how to trust your own judgment are all extremely important. So how do schools and parents, like you rightly say, provide open education is one. On issues of sex, of safety, of personal safety, of bullying, of power with, power off, and power over. The other thing is, a second case, if something does happen, where do you go? Which is where your thing about approachability comes in, right? You go to a peer, you might. You go to a teacher. I think those procedures need to be put into place. And I agree, we're all washing our hands off this issue, right? The parent bodies quickly saying, schools, you please do it. Schools are quickly saying, government, you please do it. You know? So how do we all take responsibility for this? This is not unusual, by the way. In a 2007 national survey, 53% of children in this country claim to have faced some form of sexual abuse. 53%, that's over half. Of the 53%, 90% of them have faced it from someone who is known and trusted. This is not unusual, this is not new, this is not a Western concept, this is not about modernity. Unfortunately, this is something that's very real in our culture. And we need to open our eyes and face it. Like we do anything else that comes our way.
What do schools need to do to be safe? So one of the ideas was that schools need to have a set of rules to be followed by students, teachers and parents. Life skills, open discussion spaces for both students and teachers. Be receptive to sensitive issues. Observe, interpret, comprehend, assess and act. So key words there. And a very interesting comment, do not hype situations, but deal with it with utmost sensitivity. To be safe, let's issue ID cards for staff, visitors and parents, have CCTV cameras in closed areas, student councils, teacher counsellors, suggestion boxes, circle time with students, frequent parent-teacher interactions. A child safety committee, communication with parents to take safety measures. Let's inculcate moral values using videos and cinema with children. Child education on abuse on various forms should be undertaken. Educating children about good touch and bad touch. Train teachers with proper do's and don'ts. So teacher training is one of the areas that has been highlighted. All efforts should be made to build trust. By all means, take precautions, but do it with trust. What are the steps to be taken for the safety of teachers, principals, and management? Be proactive, introduce positive practices in school, and shift from academics to the happiness coefficient of all individuals. Interesting comment there, thank you. Okay, so let's take up that question. What do we do to ensure the safety of teachers, management and the principal?
We have to depend upon ourselves for our own happiness and well-being and so on. So the question is, if you're looking at safety of parents, because here we're talking safety of children, children who are younger than us, children who are depend upon us for their well-being, for their growth, for their education and so on. Adults, we are adults, so we can't equate ourselves with children. So as adults, what can we do to ensure our own sense of well-being, safety, and sense of esteem?
At times, we teachers or heads, in a time of crisis or even if there is a small issue, we lose calm and we act like children. Like if a child is screaming in a class, what you can hear higher than the child's voice is the teacher's voice. And even if the child has pushed another child, which being with the kindergarten children, I see day in, day out, it is the child would have a slight bump, but the teachers will panic. So the utmost thing is we should maintain calm and the transparency. that if something has happened, if we share that honestly with the parents and the management, I think we will be at a safer ground.
I have seen that a lot of teachers do feel threatened, especially by the students itself. One thing is, I think you need to acknowledge the fact that I completely agree with how we tend to use our phones, but it helps to take a step back and to understand the kind of background that the child comes from, why is the child acting that way, and to change your response to that thought, and to actually train yourself, build that muscle memory to be more reflective. But I also do believe that there are instances where we need to educate children and we need to tell them that these are the boundaries you need to maintain with teachers as well.
Being transparent in all our transactions and involving parents in major decision of the school. That's one way in which you can be really communicating to them that we are safe. Security teams, and in the bracket it says male and female. Install CCTV, have visitor ID cards, and have female governors in all buses. This is a little against to some of the other chits which says have more female staff than male, associating that probably having female staff is communicating that we are very safe.
Yeah. Sorry, I just want to go back to what people who've spoken have said. What they said, that safety is not only about something that somebody else does. It could be a sarcastic word, it could be, and we cannot say it's only male teachers who are sarcastic or scream and shout at teachers. I think we women do it just as much, if not more. So I think we need to be able to be clear about that. And it's not about the gender of the teacher. Safety should not be equated to the gender of the teacher.
Yeah. The other one says build a mentor system and have representative from all stakeholders. So have a mentor system where all stakeholders, maybe parents, teachers and students being a part of that mentor system. Security to be trained not to allow anybody to be coming inside the school campus without any ID or appointments. This other one says have a student parliament to discuss among kids of what issues are coming up and share it with other stakeholders. And there's one clear one which says have parent interaction, parent workshop, student workshop, regular teacher talk, have a systematic recruitment processes and checks, and also teacher training. I like this one which says our eyes are our cameras. So not really
I think that should be the slogan of this campaign.
Exactly. So I think it's just everyone being aware and communicating. I think that would be seen as the second one.
The third question now, what should a school do in a crisis? There are some that say what should be done in a crisis. There are also some answers that say what should be done to prevent a crisis. So, the first thing says acceptance of the crisis and transparent sharing of it with all stakeholders. There was another poster that said all stakeholders, meaning students, teachers, management, parents, support staff, and anybody that's involved with children in the school. And then the prevention part of it, take sane steps for the future and appropriate, effective steps to handle the current crisis. Then there is report to the authorities, be open about it and accept it, train the teachers in order to respond to the crisis in a proper way.
How do we make schools safer places for children? Children depend upon us for their safety. We do not depend upon children or other adults. We have to depend on ourselves for our safety. So I think there's a big distinction. And children are far more vulnerable than we adults should be. So just to clarify that. So what research says, by finding ways, how do you make schools safer places for children? By finding ways to include students on a regular basis in discussions about their school experiences. Other experts say, a school with a culture of two-way listening encourages and empowers students to break the ingrained code of silence. There's a huge code of silence, especially amongst young people, adolescents, etc. And a lot of things is beneath our radar. We do not know It's only when there's a huge crisis which blows up in front of us that we get to know, and then we've got to do something. But a lot of, and if we only listened to children, we would hear it. And it's not about just listening about academic concerns. Oh, this child is having difficulty with maths or science. It is about listening to their hurts, their fears, their feelings, what they're bothered about, and so on. And that kind of listening is difficult, and we need to be able to listen to children's feelings and sometimes listen to children's behaviors. Sometimes people are not articulate enough to express their feelings, young people. So they don't have the words as yet to express their feelings, or we have not trained them with the words to express their feelings. So we need to actually watch their behavior, listen to their behavior, and be sensitive to them. A listening school is a caring school. And we believe it's a school that cares, that is a safe school. I love what Padma read out from amongst you, that our eyes are our cameras. I think that says it all. So how do we make schools listening schools? In 2009, 5 years ago, TTF, the Teacher Foundation, undertook an action research project in 11 schools in Bangalore, which was supported by Wipro. And it's on how to be a listening school. What kind of systems, policies, processes, spaces could improve interactions in schools to make the school a safer place. And what was the project? It was our Safe and Sensitive Schools project, which a couple of schools in this room are or have been part of. One important thing, we use a well-known model called the ecosystemic model developed by Jenny Moseley to actually help schools become safer and more sensitive. And this model is called an ecosystemic model because what is an ecosystem? The living and the non-living things in an environment. So a school ecosystem is about the living and the non-living things in a school ecosystem, which means the children, the teachers, the staff, the support staff, the parents, those are all the living things. The non-living are, of course, the corridors, the playgrounds, the toilets, the laboratories, the classrooms, etc. How do you ensure that physical spaces and people are safe? The head of the model is self-esteem and morale of all adults. And therefore, safety of adults is important, but we have to be responsible for our own safety and our own sense of well-being and self-esteem. So that's the head of the model. Then we have the heart of the model, which is about listening in a group. Some people talked about circle time. It's about sitting in a circle, the whole class, and listening to, and setting aside a period in the timetable once a week to listen to children. That is group listening. And there's one-on-one listening. If there's a confidential matter which has to be addressed, that's bubble time or one-on-one listening. And then there's non-verbal listening. Somebody referred to how many schools have suggestion boxes. That's non-verbal listening. So that it could be in the classroom, it could be in the school corridors, it could be even in the buses. You put anything that's of concern to you without necessarily, it can be anonymous without necessarily mentioning who you are, so that you can, have your concerns addressed without having the spotlight on you. And of course, the spine of the model is golden rules, which means rules about being gentle, being kind, being honest, all universal values. Now, if you look at this ecosystemic model, it is for everybody in the school. It is not just for children, it is for teachers, it's for every member of the school community, including perhaps parents. And then we can look at, incentives, sanctions, etc. The SAS project, or Safe and Sensitive Schools project, at a glance, involves somebody referred to an audit, doing an audit of the school. It's about doing a pre-audit, pre-project audit, and a post-audit to check how much has changed in the school, how has the school become safer and for everybody. Golden rules and rewards and sanctions, they would be actually the things that schools need to do to be safe. Listening systems, having a consistent rewards and sanctions policies, and having clear golden rules which govern everything that happens in the school. The orange things which don't seem orange, the SAS audits, SPARK, school-based support training workshops, are the support and the professional services we provide. And in order to be seen as safe, again, whole school behavior policy and SAS certification. That is to show the world that you are a safe school. It's important. I would like to end with saying that quoting Zoe Weil, she said, "The world becomes what we teach." And I want to extend on that quote by saying the world will not become what we don't teach. So if we don't teach children to be more humane, to be kind, to be respectful of each other as well as elders, if we do not demonstrate respect for children, if we don't demonstrate honesty in our own behaviors, then the world will not become a humane place. A teacher's job is actually to ensure the well-being of the child in the school, which means educating the head, the heart, and the hand. So the child should be able to do, should be able to feel and think, as effectively as possible. So I just want to clarify that. I want to introduce Shweta Harshwal from the Times Foundation. She's representing Times Foundation, who have helped us organize this event.
Thank you, madam. I'm here to talk a little about Times Foundation, and Times Foundation is the CSR wing of the Times of India group. We've been associated with the Teacher Foundation. We've had many such programs, whether it is teaching the heads of schools or whether it is teaching the teachers, having more such training programs. We would encourage to have more such discussions, whether it is this alone topic or to have anything. I only feel from the whole discussion for these 2.5 hours that we've been hearing, I only feel that do not stop at this. Please implement things that are discussed today, whether it is the teacher, whether it is a parent or the student. Please take this forward. Do not stop it at this. Please take it forward and do not wait for any such incidents to happen. If you have to really take care of the society, I think you should just start. You should just not wait for such incidents to happen. It was great having all of you. It was a great discussion we have had today. So thanks to one and all. Thank you.
Thank you, Shweta. Thanks a lot and have a good evening.